why are young lawyers or advocates getting paid so badly in the country?
I think the economics of law is linked with exploitation.
How does a day in Mr. Barrister Aqeel Malik's life look like today?
हर दिन आपका जो है वो मुख्तलिफ है. कोई मंडेन या मोनोटोनस रूटीन नहीं होती आपकी. हाँ, हफ्ते वाले दिन वो मेरा मोनोटोनस कह सकते हैं वो है.
And that's something we've seen with the PTI as well in the last 1 year. How are you seeing them in their future?
सियासत कोई ज़ाती दुश्मनी का नाम नहीं है.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Pakistan Observer podcast. मेरा नाम अब्दुल्ला मलिक है और मेरे साथ आज मौजूद हैं Barrister Aqeel Malik. Aqeel, thank you so much for being at Pakistan Observer and welcome to Pakistan Observer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for the opportunity to actually speak through this podcast, I'd say.
Thank you, Aqeel. So, Aqeel, when I was doing my research, I kind of saw that Aqeel does a lot of work and it's a lot of advocacy work. It's a lot of, all different sorts of things that you do. And it's because you've done so much, it's kind of difficult to understand the trajectory of your journey per se. So just take me to the very beginning where it starts. Where did you grow up and how was the growing up during that time?
Right. Well, I think this is definitely going to be having a lot of information. So I'll try and synchronize it as much as I can in a very succinct and brief manner. So it all started in terms of at least my education, I'd say. I was educated here, at least for my high school or the early years. And then I did my O-levels and I did my first year of A-levels here in Islamabad. And then I completed my A-levels in London at a private college. I then read law at City University in London and then did the bar professional training course, qualified as a barrister, worked at Snaresbrook Crown Court as a court pupil for a few months. And then I went off to the US and did my grad school or LLM in International Comparative Law from the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. in US. So that's the education side of things. However, then why I sort of chose law, because I was always fascinated to read something that was different. And then not just your regular things like, your regular things meaning, a doctor, engineer. Yes, of course, one of the consideration was to sort of practice law. But of course, it wasn't just that. It was having this degree is just so versatile that you could play around with it. आप इसको कहीं भी किसी फील्ड में भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. And that's the beauty of a law degree. You can use it in diplomacy, in foreign relations. You can use it for law and as a lawyer, but also other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms that you now have as an arbitrator, as a mediator, as a negotiator. And I think also you can use this degree for a whole lot of other things, especially in your business as well, from drafting of contracts to understanding the covenants of an agreement, because obviously everything in this sort of world is based up on laws. You start from Magna Carta and you go back in history, of course, of things. So you see, so everything sort of in one way or the other is related to law or the legal system. So that sort of fascinated me, and I that's how I sort of started with the reading the law journey, and then coming back, of course, is another sort of story altogether of how I sort of ended up in practicing law, and then doing what I do now.
So we'll get to that, but I want to know, because this desire to become a lawyer was, of course, stemming from somewhere. I want to understand, when you were growing up, young Aqeel, the first 20 years of your life, was there something about the political environment that bothered you? Was there something about the judiciary that bothered you, that sort of made that thing in you that you want to become a lawyer one day?
I think whilst I was already reading law at City University, it's that awakening was basically then at that particular point, because we had the lawyers movement back in 2007 that sort of sprung or got initiated. So that was always also really interesting to see, that lawyers ki movement hai. So like they're talking about the restoration of the rule of law and the restoration of of judiciary and whatnot. So like that was fascinating to read up and see as well, not just read up, but obviously see the events unfold and how the lawyers had their struggle for restoration of democracy, rule of law, and all these associated issues that are still prevalent in this day and age as well. Of course, we do see that, but at the same time, I think my journey or my sort of resolve in reading law and then wanting to practice law sort of got reaffirmed in seeing these events and how sort of these events unfolded, and that being a lawyer was really well respected. So I think a lot of it comes from the respect element as well. Like you as a member of the society or a citizen, how you can play your part in the society. So this is again something that I thought, as lawyer, I'll be able to contribute in my sort of certain way within the obviously the legal society, the legal fraternity, but also I think if you look at the bigger picture, कि मुल्क के लिए या हम अपने इस वतन के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, as of course it's as a journalist, as a lawyer, we all play our part and we play our role. But I think because I was also good at drama, I would say drama or dramatic society or debating society, both of them actually. So that sort of helped me sort of find my path, because being a lawyer, of course, like a lot of it is, not dramatization, I'd say per se, but I think acting. A lot of it is acting, especially when you are before a judge and you have a client, so you have a role to play in that. Of course, the support is lent through the law and the judgments of the courts, but at the same time, you've got to make those convincing arguments before the judges. So for them to sort of see, I mean, without any sort of, I'd say, judgment, because us lawyers, we cannot judge our client, and of course it's attorney-client privilege, and you can't breach that. Of course, these are basic ethics of the professions or of the professional in the profession that one must follow. But at the same time, I think it's about how convincing of an argument that you can make before an impartial judge or person who is adjudicating your case. So or your client's case.
Fair enough. Aqeel, also tell me about the economics of law. So a lot of my friends have like a couple of years entered law. They did the degrees and then they moved back to Pakistan, and yahan pe they started looking for jobs and all of that. And apparently the pay scales are bad. Why are young lawyers or advocates getting paid so badly in the country?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I'm someone who has actually gone through this and who's really been on the receiving end of the economics of law or the legal profession. And the reason why I say this, I mean, I am well-to-do, alhamdulillah, and especially coming from a background where I didn't have to sort of work for the money initially, at least in the initial years. And my father supported me, my family supported me, so that was which I'm very grateful, and that's definitely there. But I think also the economics of law, especially now, I mean, of course, the trend is changing. We've sort of changed that trend in our law firm. We do not. We actually do encourage women and younger lawyers to join the firm and also pay them somewhat a lot better than what we were getting paid as young lawyers or budding lawyers, right? So, and you have to ensure this because obviously the disparity is there. So a lot of the law chambers or the set of chambers, or the smaller law firms or even the bigger law firms, there's a lot of, for the lack of a better word, what can I say? I think the economics of law is linked with exploitation, for the lack of any other better word, so as to define it. Because obviously, budding lawyers or younger lawyers, because I've been on the receiving end myself, of course, when I started practicing law, even though I actually, I had a lot of family help from my father, from my family, which I'm extremely eternally grateful for. But a lot of the younger lawyers, they don't have that support. So financial aspect is very important to them. We've sort of introduced this culture of encouraging younger lawyers and women lawyers so as to join the firm and pay them somewhat, a reasonable or decent amount, at least when they start working. Because I think that's the monetary term is, or the monetary value is somewhat encouraging and motivating for younger lawyers. And I think more so now in this day and age, as opposed to how it used to be back in the day. Because there has to be there should be a motivating factor, and there has to be a motivating factor for younger lawyers to get encouraged and to work more and to be appreciated for their hard work. And मेरे जब time जब था मैंने वकालत शुरू की तो I can't even mention the amount that I actually got. I wouldn't really call it a salary. It's more of a stipend, but that stipend was,
not even the bare minimum is what I've heard.
Yeah. So it was literally like not even peanuts. So as to put it into context. So it was something that I obviously didn't think that this is what I was going to get. But I think a lot of budding lawyers and young lawyers, they still feel and face this problem, even today. We've, at our law firm, sort of encouraged and changed this concept through at least somewhat of a decent pay, like I mentioned, or stipend, so as to encourage them and keep them motivated. But I think over and above, on top of that, what we've also done, we've introduced bonuses as well. The concept of bonuses that you have at corporate structures or corporate organizations or corporations, so to say. So if they worked hard in a case, then we will have that bonus for them. And I think that the culture is changing now. It's evolving, especially with the newer firms on the block, on the market, new lawyers or younger lawyers that have now become, of a certain standing, 15 years, 20 years, that have been facing this issue themselves when they started practicing law. So I think the culture is definitely changing, but you still have a lot of law firms and lawyers that actually do not pay anything to younger lawyers. So of course, I think this culture definitely needs to change, and we have come a long way, and we've really improved of how it used to be or how it was back in the day. But अभी भी हमें बहुत ज़्यादा काम करने की ज़रूरत है. और यहाँ पे इकोनॉमीज़ ऑफ लॉ की दोबारा मैं अगर आपसे बात करूँ तो अभी भी हमारे प्रोफेशन में बहुत मीगर अमाउंट्स मिलती हैं, सैलरी में कह लें, फ़ीस में कह लें. सो शायद इसलिए इसको लॉर्ड्स का प्रोफेशन कहा गया है या कहा जाता है.
Yeah. And Aqeel, just to understand, how long does it take? So like, let's just say it's like a hardworking person, young person. How long before they make a decent salary?
So I think it really depends. I mean, of course, one thing I certainly would recommend and would definitely have no issue in stating this, that इस profession में आपको availability और time ये आपसे मांगते हैं. आपकी availability मांगते हैं, आपका time मांगते हैं. And of course, hard work is definitely there. I cannot sort of put a timeline to it as to how long, because I think every person's journey is so different in terms of the legal practice. कुछ लोगों को 5 साल, कुछ लोग साल बाद ही अच्छा कमाना शुरू कर देते हैं, कुछ लोग 6 महीने बाद अच्छा कमाना शुरू करते हैं. So I think it really depends on not just your legal skills per se, but also your advocacy skills, but also your sort of interaction with the clientele, what you've learned from your seniors or your law firm partners. And also, I think it also depends on what firm that you might be at. So if you're at, a famous law firm or set of chambers, then you're more likely to sort of get money or start earning your own money
Fair enough.
fairly early.
Yeah. And is it also true that there's way too many lawyers? Like the supply is greater than the demand?
We've really tried to streamline that. Yes, that's true. There are a lot of lawyers in the profession, but I think having a lot more lawyers is not the problem. The problem is quality of those lawyers. So yes, the profession is overcrowded, as we hear from the legal fraternity itself, but there's always room for quality work. And I think anybody and everybody, whoever sort of aspires to be a lawyer, then can actually get into the market and carve out a niche for themselves as well. Of course, I was able to carve out a niche for myself. The other partners at the law firm were able to carve out a niche for themselves. Of course, when there's always a demand for lawyers, I think in any sort of dispute and any sort of issue, you will find a demand for lawyers. But the demand for quality lawyers is certainly on the rise, and everybody wants a good lawyer. Everybody wants an articulate lawyer. Everybody wants a lawyer that is able to represent them fully and to the best of their abilities and not slack. Because we have a lot of, with all due respect, we do have a lot of lawyers and people in the profession that do slack a lot. And that obviously then just tarnishes the reputation of the profession.
So Aqeel, I also want to change the course of the conversation a little bit and understand that, at your law firm, how is AI playing a role? Is it a bit of an assistance? Is it a bit of a catalyst in terms of like how many cases you guys are able to work with, or has it become problematic?
So when we started practicing, I think it goes on to show that, when we were trained overseas and trained abroad, one of the good things that I learned from there is that you're supposed to draft yourself and you're supposed to write opinions to yourself for any sort of a case. And I think drafting, because obviously we have this culture of what I had seen of dictation dena ya steno bitha ke usse wo notes or dictation likhwana, which is fine. I think different people work differently, and I think हमारे टाइम पे तो मैं तो खुद ही ड्राफ्टिंग करता था और ओपिनियन भी खुद ही लिखता था, जो भी जिन क्लाइंट्स के लिए लिखना होता था. एंड आई थिंक उसमें आपको बड़ा एक क्वालिटी में फ़र्क नज़र आता है. अभी AI का जिस तरह आपने जिक्र किया, सो AI is definitely on the rise, and the legal profession is also accustoming itself to the technological changes that have been introduced through AI and other things. अभी recently एक सेमिनार हुआ था, मैं उस पर गया था, हमने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ लॉ एंड जस्टिस नहीं with other partners we'd introduced कि आप चैट GPT कह लें, दीगर जो AI प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, उनको किस तरह आप अपनी लीगल ड्राफ्टिंग में इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. ऑफ कोर्स ह्यूमन एलिमेंट को आप कभी भी माइनस नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली वो कहते हैं नकल के लिए भी अकल चाहिए होती है. सो नकल के लिए अकल जो है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ तभी आ सकती है जब अपना दिमाग इस्तेमाल करेंगे. And using your own thought process or your mind, or applying your mind to what comes out from AI, of course, you can't just follow whatever the AI by using of a few commands. If you ask them to draft a contract on X, Y, Z, वो आपको ड्राफ्ट करके दे तो देगा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, लेकिन उसमें जो चीज़ें फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स हैं या उसकी एक तरतीब जो है या उसमें मज़ीद बेहतरी या उसको रिफ़ाइन करने के लिए, you'd still have to put your mind and apply your mind to fixing that. So, I mean, at the firm, because I mean, obviously, I'm now in a different role and a different position. I don't practice law, but I think what I've seen amongst lawyers, and especially the younger lot, they are really making an effective use of AI, artificial intelligence, in not just drafting, opinion writing, but also in many things associated with the legal profession. And I think that's a good thing, that one must make best use of the technological advancements that that we discover, we come across. So हर profession में इस्तेमाल होनी चाहिए, because आगे दौर ही technology का है.
I think that what you just said about this seminar was very something timely and important, because I, on a personal level, we receive so many articles and all of that, like at the paper, and the situation is such that people don't even remove the prompt at the top, the chat GPT prompt. So as you said, कि नकल के लिए भी अक्ल चाहिए होती है. That's important. Aqeel, I also want to understand that, within the legal fraternity, there is a sizable proportion of women working. How is the fraternity treating women? Are they taken seriously? Are they treated any differently? Or do you think it's a equitable, fair treatment towards everyone over there?
I think because obviously I'm the member of the gender mainstreaming committee as well. I've worked on a report as well. I mean, I was heading the committee on gender parity as well. इशू ये है कि हमारे प्रोफेशन में ख़वातीन के लिए बड़े इश्यूज और मसाइल भी हैं और बड़ी प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं. What I've seen, at least first hand, वकला में से ख़वातीन वकला जो हैं उनको बड़ा फूंक के चलना पड़ता है. स्पेशली अगर आप कचहरी की प्रैक्टिस करें, या अगर आप हाई कोर्ट्स में तो चलें, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, हाई कोर्ट में माहौल बहुत बेहतर है. कचहरियों में फिर भी जो है काफ़ी हद तक उनको ऐसे इश्यूज फेस करने पड़ते हैं. उनको अगर वो टफ़ ना हो तो वो फिर इस प्रोफेशन के जो प्रेशर्स हैं उनको स्टैंड नहीं कर सकती. और उसकी एक मिसाल ये है कि जिस तरह शायद, और ये बड़ा अलमिया है, बड़ा मसला है, कि they sort of seen in a different light altogether, even as a lawyer, because I feel like किसी ख़वातीन के पास, ख़वातीन वकला के पास फैमिली केसेस ज़्यादा हैं. उनको फौजदारी केस या क्रिमिनल लॉ से रिलेटेड जो केस है वो कम मिलते हैं. वो ये बात नहीं है कि वो कॉम्पिटेंट नहीं है या उनकी वो रिक्विजिट नॉलेज नहीं है, वो है, लेकिन शायद उन पे वो एतमाद क्लाइंट का, और ये हमारी सोसाइटी का कलेक्टिवली, नॉट जस्ट द लॉयर्स और कॉलीग्स दैट आर वर्किंग विद दैम, बट आई थिंक कलेक्टिवली एज ए सोसाइटी हम जब ख़वातीन को एक उस पैरिटी के साथ नहीं देखते या उस हवाले से इक्वालिटी के साथ नहीं देखा जाता, तो फिर प्रॉब्लम वहाँ से स्टेम होती है.
Right. And I think within the sort of law community, it's a reflection of the society. Hamari society mein that equitable treatment and that equality isn't there. And I wouldn't be surprised within the law fraternity, it's very much the same. Aqeel, break us, I want you to kind of like take us through the most recent development that we had with the with our war with India, and then we saw that they had suspended the Indus Water Treaty. What does that really mean? What does that suspension mean? Because initially सबको लगा कि शायद पानी बंद हो जाएगा या पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. So within that, with that judicial lens and that legal lens, what does the suspension of the treaty really mean?
So I think before we go on to the suspension of the treaty, we sort of need to understand the treaty itself. So this was an agreement, an international covenant or document that was actually brokered with the good officers of the World Bank, of course, in 1960, when the issues were cropping up and issues pertaining to water. The World Bank ने उस टाइम फिर ये treaty जो है broker की पाकिस्तान और इंडिया के बीच में, और वो सिग्नेटरी हैं इस ट्रीटी पे. अगर आप उस ट्रीटी का पुराना डॉक्यूमेंट उठा के देखें तो उनके साइन एज विटनेस उन्होंने किया हुआ है. इस तमाम तर मामले के ऊपर ये पहली दफ़ा नहीं है, क्योंकि ये ट्रीटी एक इंटरनेशनल लीगल डॉक्यूमेंट है, एक कवनेंट है जो कि रेगुलेट करता है वाटर शेयरिंग को. जो पाकिस्तान पानी इस्तेमाल करता है, जो इंडिया पानी इस्तेमाल करता है, और ये बड़ा सेंसिटिव इशू है. और उसकी वजह ये है क्योंकि इंडिया या भारत एक अपर राइपेरियन कंट्री है और हम लोअर राइपेरियन है, और इस पूरी सस्पेंशन और होल्डिंग इन एडवेंस, क्योंकि एक डॉक्यूमेंट है और उसको उन्होंने कहा कि ये अब सस्पेंड हो चुका है, उसको मनसूख कर दिया, या उसको उन्होंने कहा उस कागज़ की या उस डॉक्यूमेंट की जिसको साइन किया हुआ है जिससे पानी रेगुलेट होते हैं उसकी कोई वक़्त नहीं है। इन एसेंस या एसेंशली तो ये बात की है भारत ने। उसने कोशिश की, क्योंकि ट्रीटी के अंदर पानी का डेटा शेयर होना ये भारत पे लाजम मलजूम है। हम भी उनके साथ इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करते हैं क्योंकि हमारे कमिश्नर्स हैं दोनों साइड पे। जो इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी के अंदर एक कमिश्नर उनकी साइड से है इंडस कमीशन के ऊपर, और दूसरा हमारी तरफ से, और वो वाटर शेयरिंग का जो तमाम तर प्रोसीजर है और जितना वो रिलीज़ करते हैं फ्लड्स के टाइम पे, फ्लड्स के अलावा अगर इस तरह का ख़तरा हो तो ये तमाम तर चीज़ें वो शेयर गाए बगाए होती रहती हैं। डेटा ड्रिवन जो तमाम तर ये एक्सरसाइज है ये उस हवाले से है। एंड नाउ ऑफ कोर्स when they have suspended, or they claim that we've suspended the Indus Water Treaty, or we're holding it in abeyance, and this legal document has no effect whatsoever. So they then use this argument to weaponize the water, and not just weaponize the water, but also they then stop sharing all of that data that needs to be shared. Of course, with this act of India's, they've not only weaponized the water, but they've also put the lives and the livelihood of the 240 million people at peril or at risk. तो ये उन्होंने उनकी जो हमारे 24-25 करोड़ अवाम है उनकी भी ज़िंदगियाँ ख़तरे में डालने की ये कोशिश है। अब इस तमाम तर इशू के ऊपर अभी रिसेंटली परमानेंट कोर्ट ऑफ इंटरनेशनल आर्बिट्रेशन ने, या परमानेंट कोर्ट ऑफ आर्बिट्रेशन जो द हेग में है, उन्होंने कहा कि ये नहीं कर सकता भारत, क्योंकि हमारा स्टांस डिप्लोमेटिकली, लीगली एंड अदरवाइज यही था थ्रू एंड थ्रू कि भारत पानी को बतौर हथियार इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकता, और ये अपने तय या अपने ऑन इट्स ओन, इंडिया एक्चुअली कैन नॉट यूनिलैटरली withdraw from the treaty or hold it in abeyance or suspend it.
Yeah.
And this is a stance, the argument that was put forward by the Pakistan team at The Hague. The Permanent Court of International Arbitration has then gone on to rule in Pakistan's favor. So यहाँ पे भारत अब उसको दोबारा डिप्लोमेटिक फ्रंट पे तो चले हुई उसकी जो सुबकी या जो जिस एम्बैरेसिंग सिचुएशन को उसको सामना करना पड़ा पहलगाम की सारी इवेंट के बाद, लेकिन अब within the legal sort of sphere as well, you see that India बहुत बैकफुटिंग पे चला गया है इस तमाम तर मामले पे। तो जो आम सादा ज़बान या अल्फाज में अगर मैं in a very basic sort of manner if I try and explain to you, so it's a document, या एक वो कागज़ का टुकड़ा है जो रेगुलेट करता है, जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, दोनों एक मुआहदा है पाकिस्तान और भारत का, जो उन्होंने आपस में 1960 की दिहाई में दस्तखत जिस पे किया, जिसको साइन किया, और उसके बाद वो 3 दरिया पाकिस्तान और 3 दरिया भारत की तरफ, और पूरा वाटर शेयरिंग मैकेनिज्म जो है वो उसमें डिफाइन किया गया है।
ठीक है जी। अकील, now back to your journey. So law happened, you came back, you started practicing, and I would reckon then you set up your firm as well. Where did politics come in from? How did that happen?
I mean, I've been saying this, and I'll say it again, and I think it's a match made in heaven, law and politics, and I think they go hand in hand, especially in my perspective, I'd say, because you see the founder of Pakistan, you see all the other great politicians who were great lawyers at one point. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Qaid-e-Azam, वो भी बैरिस्टर थे। उसके अलावा अगर आप देखें तो कई मिसालें आपको मैं दे सकता हूँ। भारत की तरफ बात करें, गांधी हिमसेल्फ वाज अ बैरिस्टर एज वेल। उसके अलावा जितने दीगर लोग आप बरतानिया की पॉलिटिक्स में देख लें, आप ओबामा को देख लें, ओबामा भी वकील थे। आप टोनी ब्लेयर को देख लें, वो भी वकील थे। तो ये सारे लोग जो है वकालत का और सियासत का आपस में जो है बड़ा गहरा ताल्लुक़ है। सो मैंने जब वकालत पढ़ी तो उसके बाद मैं जब वापस आया और मैंने ये इस सोच से नहीं कि आई एम गोइंग टू प्रैक्टिस लॉ, बट ऑफ कोर्स I was like I'll practice law and then maybe become a judge of the high court, practice करके जब एलिवेशन होगी तो उसमें तो बड़ा टाइम है, तो प्रैक्टिस करूँगा. सेकेंडली था कि मैं सिविल सर्विस ज्वाइन करूँ, और सिविल सर्विस में या मैं चाहता था कि मैं पाकिस्तान एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विसेज ज्वाइन करूँ या फॉरेन ऑफिस ज्वाइन करूँ, लेकिन फिर वो भी करियर पाथ मैंने चेंज कर दिया और फिर वकालती की. और फिर वकालत के साथ साथ सियासत का तो हमेशा से एक नैक था कि सियासत में इंटरेस्ट था, और मैंने पहले भी 1-2 इंटरव्यूज़ में कहा है कि सियासत हमेशा शौक से होती है. ये दुनिया में कोई काम है वो शौक से होता है. अगर आपको शौक नहीं है, एंड इफ़ यू डोंट हैव अ नैक फॉर इट और यू डोंट हैव अ लाइकिंग फॉर व्हाट यू डू, फॉर व्हाटएवर प्रोफेशन दैट यू चूज़ फॉर योरसेल्फ, दैन वो एक बर्डन महसूस होता है, दबाव महसूस होता है कि पता नहीं यार जान छुड़ाने वाली बात. तो ऐसी चीज़ इंसान को ज़िंदगी में करनी चाहिए जिसका उसको शौक हो, और फिर वो काम नहीं लगता.
Right.
वो आप बड़ा एक नेचुरली फ़्लो होती हैं चीज़ें. तो मेरे लिए वकालत था, और वकालत जब मैंने आके पाकिस्तान शुरू की तो साथ ही मैंने सियासी मैदान में भी अमली तौर पे तो नहीं, टू ग्रेटर एक्सटेंड से कि मैंने ख़ुद तो मतलब अपने आप को नॉमिनेट नहीं किया, लेकिन मैं मुख्तलिफ़ कैंपेन्स में जाता था जहाँ 20-30 लोग इकट्ठे होते थे, जहाँ कोई बड़ा लीडर नहीं पहुँच सकता था, तो वो मुझे भेज दिया जाता था और कहा जाता था कि यू दैट एक्स्ट्रा या फिल इन, तो आप जाके जो है वो हमारी नुमाइंदगी करें और लोगों को कन्विंस करें. तो 2013 के इलेक्शन में ये पहली दफ़ा हुआ, और फिर उसके बाद 2015 में हमारे बल्दियाती इंतखाबात आ गए. उसमें जो कैंडिडेट्स थे हमारी पार्टी से, जमात से, तो उनकी लीगल एंड अदरवाइज जो उनके साथ कैंपेन पे जाना, उनके साथ वहाँ पे मौजूद होना कैंपेन पे, और फिर उसके बाद उसके पोस्ट इलेक्शन जो लीगल इश्यूज थे वहाँ पे वो पार्टी की तरफ से वहाँ पे वो नुमाइंदगी. मैंने आपको कहा ना वकालत और सियासत का आपस में बड़ा गहरा ताल्लुक़ है. तो फिर उसके बाद 2016 में एक बाई इलेक्शन आए, जिन बाई इलेक्शन में मैंने मैनेज भी की, कैंपेन लीड भी की उन कैंडिडेट्स की.
Was this for a party?
Yeah, so this is for the party, but of course it's all within my constituency.
Okay.
Right. So, and then obviously in 2018 as well, the same thing sort of happened. And then फिर तब तक इतना experience भी हो चुका था on ground and otherwise कि वहाँ पे जो youngsters थे वो कहते थे गाए बगाए कि आपको आना चाहिए आगे, आप अच्छी नुमाइंदगी कर रहे हैं हमारी, और आपको यंगस्टर्स के इश्यूज़ का पता है, जो आई थिंक वहाँ पे उस वक़्त के जो दीगर सियासतदान थे वो उस तरह अंडरस्टैंड नहीं कर रहे थे उनके उन इश्यूज़ को. सो देन आई फाइनली ऑफ कोर्स इन 2018, क्योंकि ज़िंदगी आपको मौका देती है और अल्लाह ताला की ज़ात आपको मौका जब दे, so of course I was presented with this opportunity that we had a by-election in our constituency. So I then put myself forward and I got the ticket. At the time I got 50,000 votes in less than 2 weeks of campaigning. When the candidate that the party had fielded in 2018 in the general elections could only get a little less than half the amount of votes that I actually got in the by-election.
Wow, wonderful.
So this was really interesting to see that. And then फिर मैंने अगले दिन, मतलब despite the fact कि मैं runner-up candidate था, मैंने अगले दिन ही I started with my political secretariat. So मैंने बाकायदगी से टाइम देना शुरू कर दिया, लोगों की गमी खुशी, I mean of course listening to their issues, their problems, trying to find a resolve to them as well. So all of this together, then this was part of the journey, so the part of that sort of transition from being a budding politician to actually becoming a proper politician. So really worked hard in those 5 years. And then इस दफ़ा जब 2024 का इलेक्शन आया, so I obviously I was like, I've already represented the party. And I will be the party's candidate, but then the party decided to go into a seat adjustment.
Okay.
So that basically meant that I was left alone without a ticket. So then because I had worked so hard in my constituency for the past 5 years, and I was there, I was available. So जब आप हल्के में मौजूद होते हैं तो हल्के की एक पल्स होती है, और हल्के की पल्स या हल्के की जो आवाज़ थी वो यही थी कि he should contest because he has worked so hard and he's been there amongst us, with us, and he's been there for the party as well. So उस तमाम तर चीज़ में फिर मेरे हल्के वालों ने ही डिसाइड किया जब मैंने उनसे मशावरत की that I should contest, and of course I then stood my ground and I contested as an independent candidate. And when I won, I then joined. I was the first independent candidate to have joined my own party, PMLN, of course, so on demand. So
amazing. And how did that win feel? Like that moment when it was finally announced that Barrister Aqeel Malik has won the election from the constituency. How did you feel?
I mean, all the polls basically pointed towards the fact that yes, he is, the topmost candidate, and he'll be winning this time. Of course, despite the fact that I didn't have a party ticket, but the reason for that is because I'd put in a lot of hard work on ground. और जो ground की आवाज़ थी या जो पब्लिक की पल्स या पब्लिक की आवाज़ थी वो यही थी कि यार ये मेहनत इसने की है और इसने कंटेस्ट जो है वो करना है और यही टॉप मोस्ट कैंडिडेट है. So when the results came in, of course, I was very elated. I was happy that all that hard work has paid off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt this burden of responsibility on my shoulders. कि ये खाली जीत नहीं है, अब असल काम अब शुरू हुआ है कि I mean, it's very easy to win and just sit idle and do nothing.
Yeah.
I'd also say this. We have a lot of my colleagues in the parliament. Of course, they're not as active, maybe perhaps in their constituencies. But I see this, that once the public reposes their confidence in you and they choose you as their representative, तो आपकी ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा जिम्मेदारी आ जाती है, जिस जिम्मेदारी को निभाना और उसको पूरा करना it's a daunting task. तो वो एक आपको जिम्मेदारी महसूस भी करनी चाहिए बिकॉज आपके वोटर्स का, आपके हल्के की आवाम का एतमाद जब आप पे होता है, सो you really have to respect that. You really have to take that into consideration, and this is what I do day in, day out. Not only looking after their interest, not only representing them, but also watching out for anything that could affect my voters, my supporters, my constituents in one way or the other. So I have to be really mindful of that day in, day out. So,
I mean, I think it's great that a lot of people kind of win and then they lose that sense of responsibility and that accountability to the public. But since then, 24 to 25, now we're in 2025, there are many things that have happened, and we'll touch upon a few of them. But I want to understand, you had a lifestyle before that, and now you have a different lifestyle. How does a day in Mr. Barrister Aqeel Malik's life look like today?
Today, I mean, of course, it used to be very different, and it is very different now. So I start early with all the office work, of course, at the Ministry of Law and Justice as Minister for State for Law and Justice. So a lot of it is like official work, but not every day is the same. So you need to understand this. Life as a lawyer and life as a politician is very different. Not that they're two completely different professions, but at the same time का होता है कि सुबह आपको अदालत जाना पड़ता है, but again not every day, and not every lawyer goes to the court every day.
No.
लेकिन सियासतदान होने की वजह से या सियासतदान या जो पॉलिटिशियन का लाइफस्टाइल है वो भी बहुत डिफरेंट है. मतलब आपको ये तो नहीं है कि अदालत जाने, but every day is so different. Like I cannot sort of pinpoint that this is, I mean, I have a set routine, and मेरी routine ये है कि मैं उठता हूँ, उठ के general नाश्ता, get ready for work and then leave and come to the Ministry of Law and Justice unless there is a cabinet meeting. So of course then I will come to the cabinet depending when the cabinet meeting is. So उसके अलावा अगर मेरी कोई event है सुबह 9 बजे 10 बजे जिस पे पहुंचना है, या पार्लियामेंट का सेशन चल रहा है, फिर जब पार्लियामेंट का सेशन चल रहा होता है, that takes preference over anything else because that's our primary job.
Of course.
So I mean, any Monday to Friday sort of situation is that if the parliament is going on, then parliament comes first and we'll be at the parliament. In between, if we have meetings, then we take those meetings as well. Like I said, cabinet की meeting जब भी call हो जाए फिर वो भी एक जिम्मेदारी है, वो भी आपको जाना पड़ता है as member of the cabinet. At the same time, उसके अलावा अगर आपको मिलता है तो आप दीगर जो काम से related meetings हैं वो अपने ऑफिस में लेते हो, या आपको कहीं जाना भी पड़ता है किसी इवेंट के लिए, क्योंकि मुख्तलिफ इवेंट्स भी हो रही होती हैं. कोई सेमिनार है, कोई इंटरेक्शन है, फिर उसके साथ अगर आपको इफ़ यू देन हैव टू ट्रैवल out of the city or out of the country as well for a conference, for a seminar or for a meeting, so वो भी आपको करना पड़ता है. So you sort of manage. So not every day is the same. So every day is a different day. If I can sort of perhaps say it in those words anyway, but हर दिन आपका जो है वो मुख्तलिफ है. कोई मंडेन या मोनोटोनस रूटीन नहीं होती आपकी. हाँ, हफ्ते वाला दिन वो मेरा मोनोटोनस कह सकते हैं वो है. Every Saturday it's my constituency day. Okay. So if I'm in the country and if I'm available और parliament on नहीं है या कोई और urgent business नहीं है जिसमें मतलब अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर आपको टास्क कर दे मुझे किसी काम के हवाले से, तो फिर हफ्ते वाले दिन मेरा जो है वो एक सेट रूटीन है. हफ्ते वाले दिन मैं तकरीबन 11 साढ़े 11 बजे अपने पॉलिटिकल सेक्रेटेरिएट पे होता हूँ, और तब से लेके जब तक आखिरी इंसान या आखिरी शख्स ना उठ जाए मेरे पॉलिटिकल सेक्रेटेरिएट से, तो मैं नहीं उठता. मैं उन सब की बातें सुनता हूँ, उनके मसाइल हैं, उनके इश्यूज़ हैं. सो आई लिसन टू देम एंड आई ट्राई एंड फाइंड अ रिजॉल्व टू देयर इश्यूज़. लोकल अथॉरिटी से अगर बात करनी है या उनका कोई और प्रॉब्लम है, जो भी इश्यूज़ हैं वो मैं करता हूँ. फिर सैटरडे और संडे का दिन दोनों ही उसमें फिर गमी खुशी का भी एक विंडो रखना पड़ता है कि आपने अपने हल्के की आवाम के दुख सुख में, उनकी गमी खुशी में भी उनके साथ होना पड़ता है. सो it's a constant, it's like you're always on the run.
Yeah.
So you really have to be present mentally and physically for this.
Does it become exhausting?
It is exhausting. It is exhausting because it does take a toll on you. I like to take smaller breaks from time to time so that I can, at least ease off the issues or all that pressure that's there on my mind. So I try and take little breaks. बीच में कभी-कभी मौका मिल जाता है काम के लिए भी, अगर आपको किसी कॉन्फ्रेंस या उसके लिए ट्रैवल करना, so you can take that extra day off and just unwind and just relax. So उसमें काफ़ी फ़र्क पड़ जाता है.
The reason that I asked that question was because most people in this country think that just because you're a politician, it's a money-making machine. You have cars, you have guards, you have privilege, powers, so on and so forth. And बस आपके मज़े लगे में. So just trying to understand the flip side of that narrative. But Aqeel, you said, and these are your words, so I'm just going to repeat them, कि वकालत और सियासत go hand in hand. And that's something we've seen with the PTI as well in the last 1 year. How are you seeing them in their future?
Well, to be honest with you, despite the fact that they have a brilliant legal team, they weren't able to, and maybe perhaps it's the decision making at the top, and decision making at the top meaning of the party officials. Of course, the decisions that they had taken, especially with their, fielding of their candidates as independent candidates when the party actually existed. Yes, party का निशान नहीं था, लेकिन party तो exist कर रही थी. और फिर चले independently contest कर भी लिया, तो फिर आपने आके PTI को join नहीं किया, फिर सुन्नी इत्तेहाद council को join कर लिया. So the various issues, I think a lot of, there's one mistake after the other. It was greatly said, I think, in one of the articles that I was reading by a fellow lawyer today, at one of the newspapers. और उन्होंने एक बड़ा ज़बरदस्त टर्म यूज़ की थी, मेरे जहन में नहीं आ रही, तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये एक सीरीज़ ऑफ एरर है जो PTI ने किया है, या के बाद दीगरे जो है वो गलतियाँ करते रहे और अब उन गलतियों का खमियाजा भी वो भुगत रहे हैं. PTI के पास देखें बहुत अच्छी लीगल टीम्स हैं और बड़े अच्छे लीगल माइंड्स हैं, but at the same time they weren't able to sort of translate that into a real movement or a struggle because उनकी अपने call और fail में बड़ा तजाद है. There's a lot of disparity between what they say and what they do. So one sort of needs to understand this. And I think political struggle तो हर सियासी जमात की होती है. लेकिन फिलवक़्त जो PTI की struggle है वो it's not a struggle for rule of law or democracy or constitution. It's really a struggle for power. And that's just so apparent on the face of it. And they have been in power for almost 3 to 4 years, 3.5-4 साल वो इक़्तिदार में रहे हैं और ऐसे इक़्तिदार में रहे हैं कि बाकी सारे अंदर थे, सिर्फ वही बाहर थे. और अब जो है तमाम तर मामला इसी तरह है कि you can have your political likeness, dislikeness, your political affiliations, but as a member of the national parliament और इस national assembly का इस ऐवान का हिस्सा होने के नाते I see a lot of disparity in what they say and what they do. Not only that, but also there's no meaningful contribution from the opposition's end or the opposition's side. And really opposition is the one that keeps the government in check.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, of course, just budget अभी गुजरा, budget पे आप देखें, उस budget के ऊपर कोई ऐसी, मेरे ख्याल से 2 members हैं, in the committees of course, उनकी अच्छी तजवीज़ आई जो PTI के 2 members थे, लेकिन उसके अलावा if you see on the floor of the house, there's just been released this, released that, and it's just been ये ड्रामा शुरू हुआ है, बस उसको रिहा करो. मतलब पाकिस्तानी अवाम का बजट है, कौम का बजट है, आप उस पर बिल्कुल कुछ भी नहीं कह रहे. जो आप कहते हैं कि इतने लोगों ने आपको वोटें दी हैं या इतनी वोट्स आपको पड़ी हैं और आप पाकिस्तान की सबसे बड़ी सियासी जमात हैं, कोट अन कोट, जो खुद ये कहते हैं. बट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग to see that there's been no meaningful contribution from the opposition's end or side, especially with regards to the budget or other national issues. I mean, national issues such as terrorism, that's a national issue. That's not a political issue.
No.
But of course, abstaining from actually going into that meeting when we were being briefed on the entire situation in the country on terrorism. They chose not to come when it actually boiled down to, you know, making a meaningful progress in trying to sort out the issues, the political issues amongst political parties. What had happened then? They just sort of walked away from the entire conversation or the table itself. So ये चीज़ें आप देखें, ये सियासी रवैये तो नहीं है, ये जमहूरी रवैये तो नहीं है. I mean, political parties, they engage with other political parties and political leaders engage with other political leaders. I mean, you know, I mean, one example of this is when Mia Nawaz Sharif, the 3 times former prime minister of this country, actually went to Bani Gala, you know, went to Imran Khan's house. और वो खुद के तो सियासी वज़ादारी तो यही होती है. सियासत कोई ज़ाती दुश्मनी का नाम नहीं है. सियासत में आपको दिल बड़ा करना पड़ता है. सियासत में आपको अब स्ट्रैटेजी के साथ चलना पड़ता है, वज़ादार होना पड़ता है, सियासी रवैये रखने पड़ते हैं. कोई ज़ाती दुश्मनी तो नहीं है. और ये जो एक बड़ा डाउनफॉल हुआ है पॉलिटिकल कल्चर में हमारे, that I have seen, you know, I mean, we as parliamentarians, we as politicians, we get targeted a lot. And हमारा जो टारगेट हमें जो किया जाता है वो इस हवाले से किया जाता है, ज़ातियात के ऊपर बात आ गई है. क्योंकि लोग अब उसको खाली सियासी इख्तलाफ के तौर पे नहीं देखते. It's not just your political differences. It's literally, it's come down to, you know, personal attacks.
Yeah.
But personal attacks and personal likeness and dislikeness. And of course, as politicians, we have to weather that as well. लेकिन उसके साथ ये एक बड़ा जो कह लें हमारी पोलराइजेशन जो है बहुत ज़्यादा जिस तरह हो चुकी है पॉलिटिकल लैंडस्केप में या पॉलिटिकल कल्चर में, तो वो चीज़ देखने के लिए आप ये ज़रूर देखें कि सियासी माहौल या सियासी रवैयों में बड़ा एक फ़र्क आ चुका है. वो अच्छी जो वज़ादार सियासत होती थी कि आपका सियासी इख्तलाफ तो हो सकता है लेकिन ज़ातियात पे आप या किसी को टारगेट नहीं करेंगे या पर्सनल अटैक्स नहीं करेंगे, पर्सनल एनिमिटी नहीं होगी, वो अब बहुत ज़्यादा इंग्रेस हो गया उसका हमारी political culture, political society में.
बिल्कुल. एंड अकील जहाँ पे हमारा एक डायनामिक शिफ्ट हो रहा है लोकली, एक ग्लोबल डायनामिक भी शिफ्ट हो रहा है. How are you seeing the world progress in the last in the next 5 years? Or do you think we are headed towards global chaos, or do you think things are kind of settling down? It's going to work out. It's all going to be all right. How does Aqeel see that?
So, I mean, of course, I'm somebody who is very positive or likes to think positively and stay positive, of course. What I have seen in these past few months is just been a total chaos of the world order, or the rule-based order that we as a country, or I as a politician, very much believe in. And I've seen this is because with the India and Pakistan war, I mean, of course, India trying to assert its hegemony on the entire region, trying to sell its narrative that it's the net security provider of the region when it's not, or trying to show an upper hand within the region. And of course, we've all seen उसका इख्तिताम किस चीज़ पे हुआ, और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह पाकिस्तान ने रिस्पॉन्ड किया, बड़ा रिस्पॉन्सिबली रिस्पॉन्ड किया इस तमाम तर चीज़ के ऊपर, और पूरी दुनिया ने देखा तो पूरी दुनिया पाकिस्तान के नैरेटिव के साथ थी. तो यहाँ पे जो जियो स्ट्रेटिजिक या जियो पोलिटिकल जो हमारी सिचुएशन है, ये बड़ा माइन्यूटली और मेटिकुलसली पूरी दुनिया ने देखा, और पाकिस्तान के साथ, पाकिस्तान के बयानी के साथ वो खड़े हुए. Second is obviously our neighbor Iran, with the situation, how it unfolded, unprovoked attack on Iran. Again, a very mature, responsible and a principled, moral position that we took as a country, as a nation. And of course, the entire world saw that as well. And I think Pakistan's importance not only in the region, but I think on the global stage has just become so prominent now. Not just after the India-Pakistan war, but also after how Pakistan played a very meaningful and strategic role in trying to achieve a ceasefire between Iran and the US.
Right.
So I think ये बड़ा एक हमारा जो as a mediator role सामने आया है पूरी दुनिया में, और दुनिया ने पाकिस्तान के efforts जो diplomacy है, जो पाकिस्तान की मीडिएशन एफर्ट्स हैं, उनको तस्लीम किया और उनको माना भी और उनको सराहा भी. सो दिस इज़ व्हाट वी आर वर्किंग. आई थिंक द ट्रैजेक्टरी इज इंशाल्लाह onwards and upwards for Pakistan as a nation, as a country, whether that's in diplomatic relations with other countries, whether that's just most recently, क्योंकि लोग कहते थे जो इससे पहले सियासतदान आए कि हम सब पासपोर्ट की इज़्ज़त करवाएंगे. इज़्ज़त आपने देख लिया हैंडलाइन पार्टनर्स की जो रीसेंट जो उनका इंडेक्स आया है, उस पर 113 से 100 पे आ गया है पाकिस्तानी सब पासपोर्ट. तो इज़्ज़त तो पाकिस्तान की हुई है, और पाकिस्तानी पासपोर्ट की भी, सब पासपोर्ट की भी इज़्ज़त हुई है. सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, आई थिंक वी एज अ नेशन वी नीड टू वर्क कलेक्टिवली towards achieving our national goals. And the national goals should be that we are a resilient nation. Yes, we need to strive and we need to work harder to कि हम अपने आप को, दुनिया पूरी हमें मानती है, लेकिन हम खुद ही शायद अपने आप में वो बिलीफ नहीं रखते कि हम पूरी दुनिया में अपने आप को मनवा सकते हैं. क्योंकि it's not too difficult of a task.
No.
कि नेशंस जो हैं वो अगर रिजॉल्व कर लें कि हमने पूरी दुनिया में जो है अपने आप को मनवाना है, सो वो मेहनत के थ्रू ही आएगा. There's no such thing as free lunch.
Yeah. I think one great example is like PIA and how it set up Emirates. I was reading an article, okay, we did all of that and now we feel like we can never get there again. But if we've done that once, there's sure like, a possibility of getting there again. But Aqeel, as we're going to wrap this up, I want to know, when you look back at your journey, both, sort of your professional journey, your personal journey, are there any bigger regrets that you have, things you would do differently?
I don't have any regrets so far, but at least thankfully so far, I can say this. And if I were to do things differently, I mean, I don't think there's any other way of doing it, because obviously how I have done things thus far and what I have done so far in terms of my political struggle or my struggle as a lawyer, I perhaps, I think in all of this, one thing that I've really kept very close to my heart is being honest, being faithful to my constituents, being true to them, also being empathetic towards them. Because obviously these are the values of the qualities that that I have, and they're embedded in me from a very early age, because वो घर की तरबियत इस तरह की थी कि through my parents, and of course वो एक पूरा माहौल जो घर का था, तो वो ये हमें शुरू से ये सिखाया कि यार गलत का साथ मत दें, सच बोलें, सच के साथ रहें, और आपको खुदा खौफी होनी चाहिए, हम्बल रहना चाहिए, ग्राउंडेड रहना चाहिए चीज़ों में. ज़िंदगी में ये उतार चढ़ाव चीज़ें आती रहती हैं, और एहसास होना चाहिए लोगों का. तो आप जब तक एहसास नहीं करेंगे या एहसास नहीं रखेंगे लोगों का, तो फिर ये एक बड़ा एक प्रॉब्लमेटिक चीज़ हो जाती है आगे जाके, बिकॉज फिर बाकी सारी चीज़ें जो हैं वो इसी से स्टेम करती हैं. अल्लाह ताला माफ़ करे, तकब्बर, गुरूर या ये चीज़ें फिर इसी तरह से होती हैं जब आपको एहसास नहीं होता दूसरों का. तो आप दूसरों का एहसास करें तो खुद ही से ये फिर आप बीइंग ग्राउंडेड, बीइंग हम्बल, ये तमाम तर चीज़ें आ जाती हैं. सो आई डोंट थिंक I would do it differently. Yes, of course. One thing I can certainly say, in achieving all of this, I wish and I hope my father was there to sort of witness all of this. But I'm sure he's looking from the heavens above, and he must be very proud of me. So I'm happy that I was able to do this and bring a good reputation and good name to the family. So
on that beautiful note, thank you so much, Aqeel, for being at Pakistan Observer and for joining the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.